Every desire appears out of nowhere. At first, it is merely an elusive impulse within the mind. Then it gathers details, emotions, and logic. And suddenly, you are absolutely certain, I want this. This is my goal, my choice. Yet, one only needs to disidentify slightly from this stream for a highly uncomfortable truth to reveal itself. Not a single one of these desires belongs to you. It would be far more accurate to say, the idea found me. The desire has taken hold of me. They simply impersonate you brilliantly. They merge with your sense of I so seamlessly that noticing the deception from within is almost impossible. We are accustomed to believing that we are the authors of our ideas. In reality, everything works precisely the other way around. You do not use ideas, but rather, they use you. Ideas and desires require an instrument in order to cross from an unmanifested state into manifested reality. And this instrument is you. You do not create desires. They merely use you as a conduit to experience themselves in the physical world. Furthermore, ideas literally create bodies to gain the opportunity to manifest through them. You are not the author of your life. You are a mechanism for the manifestation of ideas. And what is commonly referred to as non-duality is not a philosophical concept meant for pondering. It is an entirely clear mechanic of reality, witnessed and lived through personal experience by thousands of people throughout all of time. It is a practical experience where attention detaches from the familiar ego, and you suddenly observe how this connection operates. You see that without you as a conduit, not a single idea could exist here. But without these desires, the person you are used to considering as yourself would not exist either. We simply do not exist without one another. Every thought arrives already fully formed, rather than originating inside the head. Within the space of consciousness, thoughts and desires exist in their own right, entirely autonomously. And when a certain idea matures and is ready to take shape in the manifested world, it simply flies into the space of awareness and offers itself. In doing so, ideas flawlessly determine which programs are already actively linked to your body and settle precisely where the ground is prepared for them. If a person is prone to anxiety or resentment, an idea for suffering will inevitably fly towards them. If they seek recognition, an idea for a heroic deed or success will emerge. All ideas and desires wage a continuous, invisible war for your attention. Until one achieves an awakened state of consciousness, catching this moment is practically impossible. Everything happens far too quickly. A desire flares up, and your foundational personality program instantly glues it to the image of oneself. You do not have time to realize that this desire merely arose in the source, rather than being born inside your head. Thus arises the illusion of a separate human being, a character who is sincerely convinced, "This is my desire. I want this." At this moment, the attention of the source simply gets stuck in this game. It forgets its true nature and begins to identify itself with this desiring ego. To make this system work, any incoming idea always loads alongside itself another powerful program, the feeling of importance. It artificially inflates the significance of the goal, making it critically necessary for the survival or happiness of the character. After all, were it not for this importance, the attention of the source simply would not linger on this thought. Without this hypnosis, the mechanism would not direct the avatar's strength, time, and health towards its materialization. Ideas need this pure energy of attention to flow into the manifested world, and they drain it whilst hiding behind the illusion of a separate person. At the same time, The mechanism itself is entirely indifferent to what ultimately happens to the biological body or this fabricated personality. This is a cold, impersonal process. Ideas will do everything to manifest exactly as they need to. From the inside, it may seem to you that some incoming desire runs counter to your plans or ignores your fears. But the truth is that your plans and your fears are also just ideas. It is not an idea fighting against you. It is one program fighting another program for the exact same resource, for your attention. The mechanism merely manifests wherever you, as the source, choose to give this energy of attention. For it, no separate person exists whatsoever. There is only the pure energy of the source and a set of programs attempting to experience themselves through this energy. And even your physical body, this avatar, is but one of these ideas. The densest and heaviest idea, created specifically so that all the others could materialize through it. But why did the source, which is inherently infinite and absolutely free, ever need to create this dense, heavy idea of the body at all? And from where within the unmanifested do the ideas of suffering, pain, and torment originate? Why not generate only pleasant scenarios, love, joy, and lightness? This indeed does not fit into our customary human logic. But the fact of the matter is that within the source itself, there is no division whatsoever into bad and good. The source is absolute infinity, and infinity cannot be half-hearted. It is obliged to encompass absolutely all possible frequencies, all conceivable and inconceivable scenarios. The idea of the profoundest suffering, or the idea of a grand triumph, for the impersonal source, it all possesses identical value. It is simply a different density of energy, a different flavor of existence. It is only to our foundational survival program, our ego, that pain and hardship appear as a tragedy because they threaten the safety of the character. Yet for the attention of the source, it is merely a maximally intense, utterly compressed experience of feeling alive within the manifested world. Furthermore, within this matrix, experience is impossible without polarity. It is impossible to physically experience what absolute freedom is, whilst no idea of limitation exists within the space. It is impossible to taste light without the idea of darkness. For abstract concepts to become truly alive, contrast is required. A witness is needed. Physical receptors and events are necessary, through encounters with which this difference can be experienced firsthand. This is precisely how this biological avatar came into being. Frankly speaking, the body is a highly energy-consuming and exhausting contrivance. It must be constantly maintained, fed, treated, and protected from dangers. Yet it is this very vulnerability that makes the game possible. Biological needs and the fear of death constitute the ideal lever of pressure. The necessity of survival forces one to heed these intrusive voices and continuously serve them. Thus arises the infinite loop, commonly referred to as karma. We are accustomed to thinking that karma is some kind of cosmic court, retribution for sins, or karmic debts. In reality, karma is simply a physical consequence. It is the result of where the energy of attention was once invested. That which day in and day out was watered by the focus of awareness, whether consciously or not, inevitably germinates in reality. Whichever ideas are nourished by the attention of the source, those are the backdrops the mechanism constructs around the character. To many, it seems that death is the way out of this wheel. But the death of the physical body resolves absolutely nothing. True, at the moment the body dies, the foundational program of the personality dissolves as well, and in this very second, the long-standing hypnosis ceases. The beam of attention simply detaches from the character and returns back to the source. A total self-realization occurs. Within this absolute emptiness, there is no longer anyone to think or remember. Yet the fact is instantly exposed within it. No separate human being ever existed. There was merely a temporary play of this mechanism. But there is a nuance. Any idea into which the energy of attention has already been densely injected does not disappear anywhere after the death of the body, because it is not a part of the body. There are two scenarios here. The first concerns ideas that simply did not manage to materialize before the avatar deactivated. They remain in the field as unspent potential. Whilst the second scenario involves programs that have gathered colossal inertia. For instance, a potent idea of illness or perpetual suffering. It may appear that if the illness has destroyed the body and it has died, then it has materialized and its cycle is complete. But the body is merely a screen. If the screen has burnt out from overvoltage, the viral program itself has not been deleted from the field at all. It is still brimming with energy. And since time does not exist for it, it can simply model and assemble an identical character anew, with the same settings and the same personality, in order to continue manifesting. Therefore, the task of ending the cycle of rebirths does not confront the mechanism at all. This cycle will never end, simply because the ideas within the source are infinite. They will offer themselves perpetually. The only danger is that one can become trapped for thousands of incarnations in an unconscious loop of serving the exact same draining programs. The sole method to escape this loop is awakening. What then is awakening? It is the moment when the focus of attention completely detaches from all desires. It is the realization of oneself, not as a tiny cog, but as this entire colossal mechanism all at once. It is precisely then that the ego's obsessive need to demand something for itself disappears. And as soon as this egoistic "I need" is erased, the very illusion of a separate person dissolves as well. There remains only pure awareness. No me exists inside, nor has there ever been. There is only this vast, unified process. If there is no person, does freedom of choice exist at all? The answer sounds strange. Freedom of choice does not exist, yet simultaneously, it does. A mechanism for making choices is built right into the matrix itself, but there is no one who does the making. A chooser does not exist. The attention of the source itself is precisely the mechanism for selecting from that which has already matured within the field. Ideas develop themselves within the unmanifested up to a certain stage, and afterwards they require a conduit. But from where, then, does the ability to alter the plot somehow and utilize this mechanism of choice emerge? This function opens up only when attention ceases to sleep within the ego and turns back towards the source. Whilst consciousness slumbers, the mind operates on autopilot. The choice is made for it by any random ideas that fly in from the field. If attention does not make a choice consciously, programs will decide everything for it, simply manifesting the idea that shouts the loudest and captures the focus. Yet when the focus of attention is cleansed of roles and thoughts, an inbuilt possibility of selection opens up. A human has no personal choice because the human himself does not exist. However, the mechanism of selection itself, choosing from what has already matured in the unmanifested, does exist. Attention can simply illuminate or not illuminate the incoming impulse. Of course, the material world is structured in such a way that the scenery does not change at the click of one's fingers. The consequences of past unconscious thoughts, that which is called current karma, continue to unfold around the character. Old programs, into which energy was previously poured for a long time, will surface in life by inertia. Fighting them is pointless. In the moments when these old consequences catch up with the character, all that remains is simply to let this experience pass through oneself, surrendering to this current without resistance. After all, these events occur impersonally. They are not directed against anyone in particular. There is simply no one to defend themselves at this point. This karma belongs to no one, and it happens for no one. But it is precisely here that the focus of attention gains freedom. When an old, draining program, for example, the habit of taking offense, living in poverty, or worrying, surfaces once more and offers itself, one can consciously deprive it of energy. Simply withdraw the focus from there, refrain from fertilizing it with thoughts, and reselect another constructive impulse. Thus, step by step, old consequences are erased. But is it possible to completely abandon all programs and reselect, for example, the very idea of the body? No. Whilst the game continues here in the manifested world, it is impossible. To remain visible within this matrix, the source will, in any case, have to serve the foundational program of the body. The idea of the body is like a contract to enter the game. It has its own strict rules. Whilst you remain in this playroom, you will have to serve the rules of this room, to feed, warm, and protect the avatar. The idea of the body is burdened with natural needs, and whilst the focus is grounded here, these needs will not disappear anywhere. Many awakened ones state that absolutely everything in life is done on its own. Yes, on the subtle informational level, the unified field does indeed synchronize everything on its own. It builds probabilities, forms circumstances, and pulls other characters into the necessary point in space, all by itself. No separate person needs to sit and control how to bring two people together, or how to organize an event. The global mechanism does this automatically. Yet within this seemingly dense material world, its own laws of physics operate. For this event, which has already formed in the field, to become a real physical experience, the source requires action. The mechanism needs the hands, legs, and voice of the biological avatar to arrive at that very point where these spontaneously formed circumstances are already awaiting it. Who then makes the decision to move the legs? The trick is that the person, the avatar himself, decides nothing. The avatar is simply a biological spacesuit. He is not the one moving the legs. The legs are moved by the impulse into which the source has directed its attention. If the go and do program receives energy, it literally activates the nervous system, and the body obediently stands up and walks. But if attention is captured by the lie on the sofa program, the body will go nowhere. From the perspective of the global mechanism, yes, everything works on its own, automatically. However, in the dense world, this on its own materializes solely through the physical actions of bodies. On the level of matter, this on its own looks like the physical moving of legs by a bio-robot into which the energy of the source is poured. The only difference is that prior to awakening, the body predominantly serves imposed programs of fear and survival. Whereas afterwards, when a clear understanding arrives that the entire reality around is merely a projection, the opportunity arises to simply utilize this mechanism in order to play along with this self-deception, to consciously choose the illusion that can be enjoyed. And then, the source can begin to create scenarios through the avatar in an entirely different manner. With love. With the pure, aimless pleasure of the very process of this game. If this topic resonated with you and you want to see the project grow, you can support Omega Point by clicking the Join button. My sincere gratitude to those who have already chosen to support our work. This is Omega Point. We explore reality so you can feel it.